In the last video, we went and picked up the Honda Civic, got it home, and ended up pushing it in the garage. And after I got in the garage, we started tearing it apart. Got the air intake off and the big box leading up to it. Also, we took the coil packs out and put them off to the side. And now let's go ahead and start jumping back into where we left off. And what we're going to be first doing is removing all of the harnesses that we can get to on top. That's things like the idle air control, map sensor, things like that. We also have these two ground straps here that connect from the body to the engine. Now after I usually take those off, I usually like to put the bolt back into these spots so that way you don't have to keep track of another bolt. I do that on both of these and also with most of the bolts within the engine if I can. Just a good practice if you ever working on something like this. Then we have our O2 sensor here that we're going to go ahead and unplug. Over on the right side, we're going to start trying to tackle that power steering. And first thing we're going to do is remove a couple brackets that hold on this electrical connector and also a bracket that holds on that air conditioner hose leading down to the air conditioner pump. Now that we got those both free, gained a little bit more room to actually work on the power steering pump. I went ahead and unplugged the connectors from the alternator and I just pulled that wire up and we're just going to go ahead and lay that out of the way for a minute. And then I took a couple more connectors loose and just go ahead and lay that off to the side. Now we can get onto the top of the power steering pump. This is the tensioner. We're just going to take off this bolt instead of the wing nut. The wing nut's probably a little seized, so it's going to be a little easier to just remove this whole entire assembly here. Then you can remove the whole entire bolt that holds the top part of the power steering off. And then this is the bottom bolt. Kind of hard to get in there to actually take it out, but it does come loose. And with a couple pecks of my screwdriver, we can then take the belt off the power steering pump. A few more wiggles, and we're just going to pull the bolt out of that hole. Put the nut that we took off on the other side back onto the bolt for safekeeping. Now we can go ahead and loosen the bolt that holds the reservoir, and then we're just going to pull all of it off to the side and just lean it out of the way. That's going to give us a lot more room to work with. And then I'm going to put that bolt back into the body where the reservoir was held on. From here, there's this bracket that the power steering pump held onto, and that attaches to the engine. We're just going to remove all those bolts. And then we'll remove the bracket and put it off to the side. Now we can go ahead and take that exhaust shield off. It's held on with 3 nuts. Now we can just pull that heat shield away, and then we can get to the rest of the other bolts. I got lucky on all of mine. Mine came loose very easily. Penetrating oil or like liquid wrench would really help on these situations. It really helps loosen up that rust and the lubricant coming out. But I didn't have to, and I was able to get all of them off and then make sure that it breaks free from the cylinder head. Now we're going to start to tackle the fuel rail in the back. We're going to remove all the electric connectors for each one of the fuel injectors. There are 4. I'm using a pair of channel locks. It's easy to get in there in those tight spots, and also gives me the clamping and pulling that I need. Then we're just going to put that loom a little bit out of the way. Then there's 2 bolts that hold on the actual fuel injection rail. One on each side. Then we're going to remove the fuel line. This is the main fuel line coming into the rail. Actually really easy to take off. The return line was actually way harder. But with a screwdriver and a pair of channel locks, I will break it loose and push it off. We'll push that out of the way. From here, we're just going to take our screwdriver here and we're going to pry the fuel injection rail off of it. 3 of the injectors did stay with the cylinder head and 1 came out with the fuel rail, but no worries, we're just going to take those out when we get a little more room. Here's a better look of the 1 injector that came out with it. The other 3 are still in the block. There's this little bracket here that the fuel injection rail rests against. Took that off. Took off a couple of the lines going into the throttle body. And we pull those out of the little holder and lay those off to the side. There's a sensor here that we need to remove. I believe that's the knock sensor. Could be wrong. From there we then see the top down. We're going to try to tackle some of the intake bolts. Full disclosure here, these are a pain and they were not fun to get off. I ended up only getting, I think, 3 or 4 of them off, and I ended up taking a break from that because one was holding on because it was just so rusted on the back. But we'll go ahead and show you the ones I did get to take off in this first pass. I found that the combination of a swivel socket and also a ratchet wrench was the solution for taking off most of them. It was the bottom ones that were a pain. The tops were pretty easy. So like I said, we'll get back to that a little bit later, and we'll move on to this main coolant hose. This is the top coolant hose. And then we'll go ahead and take a couple of the lines that I believe go to the heater core loose. We'll take off the bottom antifreeze hose as well. If you don't have yourself a good pair of channel locks, I would definitely recommend getting a pair. They're so helpful in almost any of these jobs. I have a little bit of coolant still left in the hose. We're just going to let that pour down a little bit. I got to catch underneath the car. Now we're on the driver's side of the vehicle, taking off the bolts that hold the timing chain cover on the top. This is a 2-piece timing cover, so we're just unscrewing the bolts that hold in the top part. This is the camshaft sensor, I believe. That is a pain to get out, but it is possible. And then we're going to go ahead and start undoing the bolts that hold on the actual valve cover. out the rest of the way. Don't forget to remove the oil dipstick. And we're going to go ahead and remove the actual valve cover from the head. Kind of a pain going underneath that AC line, but you are able to actually maneuver it out of there with it still on there. So I just went ahead and pushed it underneath there real quick, gave it a little pry, a little tug, and pulled it on out. Peel up the gasket. It's held on by a little bit of gasket maker in the corners there, like you should. Same on this side. And that's going to wrap up this episode. So I'm going to keep posting more of these videos, and don't forget to keep an eye out for them, and like this video if you could, subscribe to my channel, also turn on those notifications, that way you get that post when I do actually upload the next video. And yeah, thanks for watching, I appreciate it, have a good one.